Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel where today we are going to be taking a tour through my physical TBR shelf. So every once in a while I do like to do these videos as an update because I don't actually have a ton of books on my TBR shelf. Right now it's at 15, and so because given how small that number is versus how many books I read per month, I do cycle through them fairly quickly. So I like to give you updates as a way to say these are the books that have come into my house recently, as well as these are the books that you are most likely to see me reading in the next 6 months. So, like I said, 15 books to talk about. So let's jump right in with the first two books, which actually are on my January TBR, and I will very likely be getting to in the month of January. But the first one is To Be Taught If Fortunate by Becky Chambers, which is an adult science fiction novella. And the premise of this is that there are space explorers, and instead of going to a new planet and like terraforming so that humans can live and explore there, they actually changed their body to be able to live in the conditions of the planet, which I think is fascinating. But our main character is one of these space explorers, and yeah, I'm really excited to get into this. I have not tried Becky Chambers, but this sounds so fascinating. And then I have Where the Drowned Girls Go by Shawna McGuire, the 7th book in the Wayward Children series, which is a young adult portal fantasy series. And in this one, we're following Cora, and Cora was a bit traumatized from the events of the 5th book and has decided that she does not want to be at Miss Eleanor West's School for Wayward Children anymore. She wants to transfer to the sister school, Whitethorn, only to find out that Whitethorn is maybe not as understanding of Cora's past experiences as Miss Eleanor was. I am really excited to get into this. This is actually the book that I am most likely to pick up next. I am so happy. And then we have all the rest of the books, which are actually in no particular order other than I think like size order from my shelf. But the first one is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers, the first book in the Wayfarer series. This is adult science fiction, and our main character ends up on a spaceship. This small spaceship decides to take a fairly lucrative contract, only to find out it's also very dangerous, and the crew kind of has to band together to be able to survive. This I will likely get to fairly quickly because it is on my 5-star prediction video. I think that I'm really going to love it. I like I said before, I haven't read any Becky Chambers, but everything I've seen about it makes me think that I'm probably going to love what she is doing. So you should see this fairly quickly. And then we have A Natural History of Dragons, by a memoir by Lady Trent by Marie Brennan. And this is interesting because this is one that I've actually had my eye on for a really long time. And the longer that it's it's been in my orbit, the more interested in it I have become. I don't actually know a ton about this other than it is a memoir of Lady Trent who studies dragons. That's really all I know, but between that general premise and this cover and everything, I'm just really excited to read this book. And then I have Amberlow by Lara, Elena, Donnelly. And so the back of this one it says, the heat is on in Amberlow. Meet a smuggler, a dancer, and a spy during a decadent era just before a political coup is about to set the city on fire. This is another one that I have had my eye on for a very long time, so I don't remember a ton about this book more than what is on the back, but I remember hearing really good things, so I'm still really excited to get to it. And then we have The Infinite Noise by Lauren Shippen, and this is a companion novel to the Bright Sessions podcast, which is a science fiction, fictional podcast about a therapist who is helping people recognize that they have superpowers and also helping them learn to live with them. I don't actually know where this falls, like in the chronological order of things. I don't know where this falls, and so I need to look that up. But once it's time for me to be able to read this, I am excited to get into this one. And then we have The Calculating Stars by Mary Robinette Kowal. This is the first book in the Lady Astronaut series. It's an alternate history, historical fiction, I guess, set in like 1952, and we've got lady astronauts. And honestly, much more than that, I don't really know. Again, in this stack are a lot of books that I've had my eye on for a very long time, and I'm still interested in, but I just don't remember the particulars of like what all it's about. And this is one of them. But again, still excited to get into it. And then we have Sparrow Hill Road by Shawna McGuire, and this is the first book in the Ghost Roads series, I think it's called. But this follows Rose Marshall, who is a ghost, and it's some of her stories, I guess. Rose is actually an ancillary character in the Encrypted series, but this is I don't know if it technically qualifies as a spin-off series, but this is all about Rose. And I am excited to get into this because what I've seen of Rose makes me very fascinated to see what exactly is going on with her. And then we have Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lim, which is the first book in a young adult fantasy romance duology, I believe. But it's a retelling of Mulan. Our main character, her dad is a tailor, and our main character decides to disguise herself as a boy, go to the palace to enter a competition in her dad's place to, like, I think become the emperor's tailor. Again, a little bit fuzzy on the details, but I am really excited to get into this. I am actually tentatively planning to read this in February. And then we have Clean Sweep by Elona Andrews, the first book in the Innkeeper Chronicles. I actually own this as an ebook, but I recognized that I'm a little bit wary of this. This is like adult urban fantasy, and we're following Dina, who's like an innkeeper, which is she runs this inn, which is basically a way station, a safe house for like aliens, because it's on Earth, and people on Earth still don't know about aliens. But like the description of it makes it sound like it's going to be a little campy, and that's not necessarily what I don't always do well with campy urban fantasy, but it is Elona Andrews, and I have loved basically everything from Elona Andrews, and so I do want to give this a try, but because it was an ebook, it was a lot easier to ignore. So I went ahead and picked up the first book in hard copy so that it would kind of more force me to pick it up so that I can read it and probably enjoy it that much sooner. And then we have Seven of Infinities by Elliot de Baudard, and this is a Shuya Universe novella. I picked up some of the Shuya Universe like novellas, short stories last year and really enjoyed them. The Shuya Universe basically posits that in like long ago, instead of Christopher Columbus and like Western Europe colonizing America first, it was China. And so now we're in like way the future, and we are following people who are predominantly more in like a version of Vietnamese culture, which is really fascinating, honestly. I don't remember a ton about what this book is about either, but honestly, I have really enjoyed the Shuya Universe short stories and novellas, so I'm still excited to get into this one as well. And then we have Nightmare Magazine's special issue, People of Color Destroy Horror, guest edited by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. So this is it's a magazine, and it's all horror stories, all short stories that are horror. And I have had this on my shelf since March. This is March of last year. This is my oldest book on my shelf. And I want to read this, but I really haven't been quite in the headspace to be able to handle a bunch of short stories, let alone short stories in a genre that I don't normally read. And so I've kind of put it off, but I am hoping to get to this pretty soon because I am still interested in it. and it's also the oldest book on my TBR shelf. And then we have the last physical book, the last book I have in my hands, and that is Cibola Burn by James S.A. Corey. So this is the 4th book in the Expanse series, which is an adult epic science fiction series, and it's really difficult to sum up, honestly, but where we ended the 3rd book in this series was fascinating. I was just like, oh, I really want to read the next one now. And so I went ahead and picked it up. This, however, I don't know when I'm going to get to this. This is a really, really interesting series, but how it's written is really difficult for me personally. Basically, they're all tomes. This one is 580 pages, and it has 4 different perspectives, 3 of which we've never seen before, which is just, it makes it really difficult for me personally to get into these. So even though I'm excited, I also know that I'm not quite ready for this book, but when I am ready, it is there for me to pick up. And then I have 2 books that are currently on the way to me, probably. But the first is the Girl of Fire and Thorns short story collection. I think it's called The Stories of the Girl on Fire and Thorns or something like that. This is by Ray Carson. It's a bind up of the first, like the prequel novellas that came out. I believe it is The Shadow Cats, The Shattered Mountain, and The King's Guard. And basically it's following some characters from the Girl of Fire and Thorns trilogy that become very, very important. But it follows what they're doing prior to the events of the trilogy. And so we're following Elodia and Mara and Hector in their individual short stories. I am really excited about this because I did read Girl of Fire and Thorns last year, like reread, and it was still really good. I read the additional novel that came out much later. I liked that. So I'm just really excited to read these novellas because so far I've enjoyed everything from this world. It is on the way to me. I don't know exactly when it's going to show up. I am hoping soon. And then the last book I wanted to mention, I don't actually even know if this is going to be on the way to me at the point that you see this, but I figured I'd mention it anyway. And that is Anatomy, a Love Story by Dana Schwartz. So I pre-ordered this. It comes out January 18th, so it will be like shipped to me at that point. But in this book, it's a young adult historical fiction romance, I guess, but we're following our main character who is female and really wants to be a surgeon, but she ends up getting kicked out of the lectures because she is a woman. And so she strikes up a deal with the lecturer that if she can pass the medical examinations on her own, then the university will allow her to enroll in the university. So now she has to learn all that stuff, and she wants to dissect some cadavers. So she finds a gravedigger or something similar in this world, and shenanigans ensue. I didn't, at the time that I pre-ordered this, I didn't realize it was young adult. I'm hoping that that's not, doesn't end up poorly. I am still really interested in the premise, but yeah, I would have preferred this to be an adult novel. So, but we will see how it goes, because like I said, the premise is still really interesting. So I will obviously still be reading it. But that is it. Those are all the books that are currently on my TBR. Like I said, you should be seeing a lot of these within the next 6 months because I do tend to like read books from my TBR shelf scattered among all the stuff that I get from the library. And so, yeah, you should be seeing them soon. But that is all I have for this video. So if you have any thoughts or feelings about the books that I have showed you, or you think that I should prioritize any of them, please let me know down below. Like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and until next time, have happy reading, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!